I'm ending my first semester as professor and instructor at Claremont School of Theology, Claremont. And what these graduate level students are encountering is worship and the arts. After working our way through the history of Christianity from the year 1, the students spend these last 3 weeks designing and performing their own services. Now, I am not so much interested in what they do. They can pick whatever kind of service they want to do. What I'm interested in is the theological underpinnings of what they do. Why do you do what you do? Why did you choose that? What does what you do and say, how you handle yourself in worship, what does that teach and preach about what you believe? About what your denomination believes? This week, one student designed and staged what some people would call a fairly radical service. He chose as his service a wedding. And his wedding was not just any wedding, it was a same-sex wedding. And there's a Samoan student in my class, and he was there resplendent in his white jacket and his white skirt, and his wife was there. And she had on her gorgeous white gown and her white hat. She looked very traditional. I kept looking at her out of the corner of my eye while this same-sex wedding was going on, going, oh, she's going to be really outraged that this is being practiced and taught in seminary. Because the service that she is witnessing now is not going to be anything like the church that she and her husband will be pastoring. It sort of felt like, as I looked at her in her resplendent garb, that I was taking the Pope to see the Book of Mormon. When worlds collide. But I had to make her welcome. So after the wedding was over, I went over to her and I greeted her in the worship space and asked, how are you enjoying the class? She said, oh, I hope heaven is like this. Everybody's singing and praising God exactly the way they want to sing and praise, with nobody judging them. She said, how could this not be like heaven? Well, you can imagine my heart soared and my spirit soared. It happens to me all the time. I'm dragging my feet, going over thinking, oh, I've got to welcome somebody, and I end up getting welcomed. What's up with that? How does that happen? Jesus was always hospitality to his disciples. He was home to them. But Jesus, their home, was trying to tell the disciples that he had to leave them. He was going back to God, the source of all creation. But they could not hear him. They were not trying to hear him because he was their anchor. He was home. But Jesus tried. Jesus told the disciples one time, where I am going you cannot follow now, but you will follow later. Peter, who was like a big dog, always wanting to be where Jesus was, said, Lord, why can't we just follow now? Jesus said, you know where I am going and the way you know. Thomas said, Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how could we possibly know the way? A third time, Jesus said, in a little while you will see me no more. And the disciples said, what does he mean in a little while we will see him no more? We see him now. Jesus, we have no idea what you were saying. The last time that I saw my grandmother, it was a Christmas get-together of our whole family. And my grandmother had made her living as a domestic all of her life. She cleaned up after people, she raised other people's children, she cooked meals for other people. And she was an extraordinary cook. You could eat 10 of my grandmother's biscuits and never feel full because they were so light. It just felt like they would elevate you off the floor. My mother and my aunt, who are quite wonderful cooks, never learned how to make those biscuits like that. That recipe went with her to glory. But I remember sitting down with her that final Christmas when that meal was over, and she said, you know, I feel the same way about myself that I've always felt. I'm me, I'm Florine. But when I look in the mirror, I see that I'm old. And I look at you kids, and I know you all love me, but you look at me like I'm old. People treat me at church like I'm old. And today, after cooking this meal for 20 or 30 of you, I feel old. You see all of these dishes? All of these pots and pans? I'm not going to let you help me wash dishes, but I really wish I could just throw them out in the backyard. I'm really tired of cooking. I've been doing it for over 60 years, she said. Plus, I've been going to the doctor, and the doctor doesn't know how to help my heart except to raise my blood pressure medicine. And so that's making me tired. But here we are. 3 or 4 months later, after all those years of cooking and cleaning and taking high blood pressure medicine, my grandmother suddenly died. She had talked to my mother that morning, and she went to the supermarket, and she turned to my grandfather, and she said, my legs feel wobbly, and she was gone. My family was devastated. It took me years to realize that with her body slowing down and with what she was telling us, that she was aging, her taking more medication, she was fairly shouting at me that she had to go. She had to go. Because Mama had been Mama, I was oblivious. I didn't hear a thing. I didn't hear the message that she didn't even know perhaps that she was giving me. When my mother called me and said, well, your grandmother's gone, I said, gone? Gone where? Jesus was saying that with my going, which will seem pretty traumatic to you, a new understanding of who I am, of who God is, and who the love and power of God is enabling you to be, will be coming closer to you. Up until now, you have looked at God as other, as something apart from you. Even in my teachings, and even in my miracles, and my walk with you, you disciples have seen God as something close to you, but something that lived outside of you. What I am saying to you about the oncoming of the Holy Spirit is this. God is coming to you again in a third person, in the person of Spirit that will live even closer to you than I am. It will live inside of you. And as you believe in it and rely on it, it will empower you beyond anything that you can imagine. It will make ways for you to soar and to endure and to persevere. And more importantly, it will make ways for you to be of help to each other beyond your wildest imagination. What you will come to understand about the Holy Spirit is this. And Fred Craddock put it this way, and it couldn't have been put better. Neither your worst failures, or getting the job, or getting the house, or getting the girl, or getting the guy, or getting something that you have worked for all of your life, it will never be all there is to life, because God will be walking with you and putting everything that happens to you in perspective. It's just something that happens on your journey through life. Whether you are young and vibrant, or whether you are older and wiser and have weathered and seen much like all of the rest of us wonderful people in this sanctuary, and in spite of it all, God says, I will be right here with you no matter what you're going through, loving you and helping you to love yourself. That is what the indwelling of the Holy Spirit is about. People, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, people who are struggling often have lost the ability to love themselves. That Samoan woman in the white hat told me. She said, I lost my mom last year. She said, all I have left are 5 of her mother's belongings. I have 5 things my mother had. Why? Because her mother knew that she was leaving this particular existence, and so she was busy giving all of her things away. Her mother would not have been a person to help us get the garage sale together. The daughter with the white hat said she would arrive at her mother's house and see a neighbor who was wearing some expensive thing that she had given her mother. And she's going, why does she have that on? I gave that to you, Mom. And her mother would say, well, because she needed it, or she admired it, or she thought it was pretty. When her mother got to the end of her journey and she lay dying in the hospital, she said to her daughter, Daughter, you are a marvelous cook. You have learned everything that I have taught you. I want you to go home and make what you know to be are my favorite dishes and bring them here to the hospital. And so the Samoan woman said she went home and she was weeping and crying as she made this food for her mother, perhaps for the last time. And she was going to take it to the hospital and they would share this last meal together as mother and daughter. And so she arrived at the hospital and she had made a lot, because if you know any of our wonderful Samoan brothers and sisters, they think, why make a little bit when a lot will do? She arrived with lots of food and she had to have somebody help carry it to her mother's room. And her mother said, great, you have made the food and you've made it in the quantities that I expected that you would make it in. Now, daughter, go home. The daughter looked at her mother as if to say, why, Mom? Why are you sending me away? The mother said, Daughter, you and I have had a wonderful life. But where I am going, you cannot come. In the meantime, I must feed all of these people here in the hospital who don't have families like you and I have shared, who don't have mother and daughter relationships like you and I have had, and to show them, even in my living, what love looks like. But then she said to me, I can't stay sad. The spirit of my mother, the person of my mother, living her life, making a place for somebody else, makes its home in me. The spirit of all those loving persons of goodwill who have gone before us make their homes in us. The Spirit and the person of God as expressed through Jesus Christ. The spirit of my grandmother, it comes to live in you just as the Spirit of Christ Jesus came to live in his disciples. The Spirit continues to make its home in all of us. Wherever you are in your life, soar, express, sing, tell stories, laugh, share memories. But realize you have in you the Spirit of God to make somebody else welcome.